Thank you for the opportunity, to be part of the Bitcoin 2025 official hackathon. The category focus I will be focusing on is the best design, sponsored by the Bitcoin Design Foundation. So, looking at the problem, my biggest problem has always been with learning Bitcoin. And looking at Bitcoin, I've always been intimidated and overwhelmed by Bitcoin addresses. They're so long, complex, the strings go on till forever. The Bitcoin addresses and the public keys, the alphanumeric sequences, almost like hashes. And then you have the error prone, how easy it is to mistype or misread, leading to lost funds. Another thing is also the lack of confidence, new users struggling with, verification. That causes anxiety and hesitation, in adoption, in trying to actually learn Bitcoin. And then another thing is the poor user experience. Bitcoin applications usually are just so overwhelming. It's only in accommodation to people who have enough experience or have mastered, the Bitcoin environments. The current methods for sharing, copy pasting, QR codes. It has a lack of like human friendly. It has a lack of the human friendly verification layer. Like I need to be able to use it as a normal human without Bitcoin experience. So, looking at all these issues, I decided to actually dive deeper. And diving deeper, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not speaking only from first-hand experience, but from another user's experience. So let's look at Sarah. Sarah's first Bitcoin payment. The Bitcoin sharing dilemma. Sarah, excited to finally dive into the world of Bitcoin, is trying to send her first payment to a friend, Alex, for a shared online course. Alex has just sent her his Bitcoin address. Look at that. I don't even understand what's going on. And as a user, I really, it's so overwhelming to actually get what's going on, and the fact that I'll have to use this in the Bitcoin application, that just makes me nervous as a first-time user. And I'm sure let's see what Sarah is going to think about this. So Sarah opens her wallet app, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. She copies Alex's address, but as she pastes it into the recipient field, a wave of anxiety washes over her. Is this right? She mutters to herself. The address is so long, a jumble of seemingly random letters and numbers. She tries to visually scan it, comparing it to the one Alex sent. But her eyes blur after the first few characters. What if I made a mistake? The thought of sending her precious Bitcoin to the wrong address, irreversibly losing it, makes her stomach clank. She double checks, then triple checks, squinting at the screen. But the sheer length of the string makes true verification feel impossible. She knows even one character off means her money is gone forever. This is so stressful. The simple act of sending money, which should be quick and easy, has become a high-stakes, anxiety-inducing task. She wishes there was an easier, more intuitive way to confirm she's sending to the right person. She calls Alex, asking him to read out the last few characters, just for a silver of reassurance. This experience leaves Sarah feeling intimidated and less confident about using Bitcoin for future transactions. She wonders if this complexity will always be a barrier for her and for others like her who just want to use digital currency without the constant fear of irreversible errors. So as we can see, Sarah is completely overwhelmed by the Bitcoin application, and the address that she's been sent by Alex. And it's just so overwhelming, and she keeps thinking that she's making an error, a mistake. And the fact that her money could be lost, like with such low stakes or with such high stakes, and she doesn't even get to understand what she's doing. She keeps double checking, showing her nervousness, showing her lack of experience, because it's her first time using the application. So it's really overwhelming. It's really worrying her that she's about to lose her money. So looking at this scenario, it's about time we actually find a solution to this. So introducing KeyCanvas, making Bitcoin addresses human-friendly. KeyCanvas introduces a novel approach to Bitcoin address handling by creating a visually verifiable mnemonic for every address. The core innovations are visual fingerprint, a unique, memorable, and shareable visual pattern linked to a Bitcoin address. The other feature or innovation is the enhanced confidence. Users can quickly verify addresses at a glance, reducing errors and anxiety. Another thing is the streamlined sharing, an intuitive guided flow for sharing addresses with visual confirmation. Let's dive deeper into it. So the tech stack that was used to develop the KeyCanvas application or web app. So firstly, let's dive into the project achievement, a fully functional, highly polished web prototype demonstrating the KeyCanvas concept. So here what was used was a responsive web application, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, as well as another project in which I created using React as well. So it's a mix. So I first initially built a HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then turned the project to a React project for more dynamic designing. Yeah, so the dynamic generation of a Bitcoin address mock string, that's one of the things that we built. Another thing was the creation of a unique KeyCanvas visual mnemonic for each address. The other feature was the interactive copy to clip functionality with user feedback. Lastly was a clean guided sharing model with QR code displayed. So obviously this is a mock design, it's a demo of the features. So how does this work? So, or rather, let's ask the question, does it work? Yes, it does work. All demonstrated features are fully operational, although it doesn't work with regards to the application. The application has not been built for the QR code to actually work. But then you get to have a glimpse on the various generations of the Bitcoin addresses, and you can actually keep changing the Bitcoin addresses so that the user doesn't, for security purposes, so that it doesn't stick to one address. And the addresses are formulated in patterns, you get to see a pattern, basically a representation of your Bitcoin address. So the problem solved, KeyCanvas successfully prototypes a solution that transforms the intimidating act of sharing Bitcoin addresses into a confident, visually verifiable, and user-friendly experience. So without further ado, I think it's about time we dive into the demo. So looking at the demo, KeyCanvas provides a simple user interface. As much as people would think, build some crazy major interface. One thing about user interfaces, when you focus on the psychology of humans love simple environments to work on. So as we can see here, we have the dashboard, we have the open application, which we haven't built, but it is meant to focus on working with the application. So as we can see, the user interface, KeyCanvas logo. So we are aiming towards making Bitcoin addresses human friendly, and it gives every Bitcoin address a unique visual fingerprint, making verification easier and more sharing more confident. So let us get started. As we can see first, let's see the example. So it's giving us an idea, an insight. So as we can see, this is the overwhelming addresses that Sarah had to go through. So we still have them, but the only difference is that we actually don't see them as the representative. So what we represent as the Bitcoin address is patterns. So as you can see, this pattern here, the triangle, the circle, triangle, square, this pattern, exactly this as you can see here, is a representation of this. And the same goes for here. The same goes for here as well. Visual patterns. Each Bitcoin address has a unique visual pattern. Remember the pattern, not just the text. But you won't have to remember the pattern fully, because remember that the pattern will be accessed. You'll be able to copy the pattern. So why KeyCanvas? KeyCanvas, visual address verification. Unique visual patterns make Bitcoin addresses easier to recognize and verify at a glance. Simple address sharing, copy, share, or display QR codes for your Bitcoin addresses with confidence. Address comparison, easily compare addresses side by side to verify they match before sending funds. Okay. Without further ado, let's get started. So this is your Bitcoin canvas. Each address has its own unique visual pattern for easier verification. As you can see, this is our pattern here. So there is the Bitcoin address. So I don't need to know this. You can just straight away copy this, and this is what I'll copy. So when I'm sharing, as you can see, despite it being a QR code, we have our own unique data that it carries, the Bitcoin address, in the form of an image, in the form of the image of the pattern, the visual pattern here. So we have the triangle, the star, and the square. So when we share, once we make this functionality work, and which is supposed to be connected to a phone, the phone app will receive the data. And so, yeah, you can also copy via text. Text is able to work, but this functionality will need to be worked on, because right now QR code is safer, because text is actually what people are avoiding, remember. But we still keep this option here for the experienced users who will maybe feel like they've gotten so used to the text. But for our users who are new, who, for example, myself, which is still new to Bitcoin, but is slowly learning and actually develop a solution to get me to actually improve my Bitcoin skills, can use a Bitcoin visual address pattern, as you can see here. So yeah, this is how it works. And then if you want to compare, so here you will have to have access to another Bitcoin address, in which we'll type the Bitcoin address to compare, use example. So this is a example, but it's the example of the comparing the same Bitcoin pattern. Okay. Yeah, both text and visual patterns are identical. Yeah, it's the same ones, same Bitcoin address. So as you can see how overwhelming these numbers are. And so the introduction of these patterns not only leaves a new user informed, they actually understand what's going on. They can see that these two are identical instead of having to look at these numbers to see identity, congruency rather. So here, as you can see, you can generate new patterns. And if you want to see your pattern more clearly, it's right here in the middle of the canvas. And so, yeah, for security purposes, we know that generating new patterns will be important. And this helps Sarah not be so overwhelmed to the point in which she loses her money. Her money is actually safe because she just shares the QR code instead of having to verify each and every letter, which is just so overwhelming and unnecessary. So, what is KeyCanvas? As we mentioned, it's human friendly by giving each address a unique visual pattern that easy recognize and verify long strings of characters. Why visual? The question of why visual verification? Because Bitcoin addresses are long and complex patterns or addresses, making them difficult to verify by eye. Visual patterns are much easier for humans to recognize, adding an extra layer of security when sharing addresses. How to use it? You generate a Bitcoin address, you memorize its unique visual pattern, which you don't necessarily need to memorize because you can just copy or send a QR code. But you can even take an image of the pattern. And then when sharing your address, verify both the text and the visual pattern match. And then you use the comparison tool to verify addresses side by side. So like I said, you don't have to look at the text, you just verify the patterns. As you can see here, just a verification of the patterns. In this case, we changed it so they're not identical. You see, sending to the wrong address could result in permanent loss of funds. What's the advantage of this? Sarah is at a position to actually see the addresses, not by looking at the codes, but just by looking at the patterns. She knows your address, her address, and then the recipient or someone else's address. So that's it. Looking at the dashboard though, here we can visualize and analyze Bitcoin address data with visual verification. The visual verification impact. We get to see the impact. The how visual verification improves address recognition. So the verification speed, we get to see how fast it is. It's 124% faster. Error reduction, 86% lower. User confidence. So how much confidence it boosts the user just adding visuals, 92% higher. Visual verifications, as you can see, 92%, 42%, 42 verifications. So the traditional was 42. It has gone all the way up to 94. So there is a huge shift. So looking at the address activity, transaction history, and pattern analysis, as we can see, yeah, we can see this is for a personal user and the BTC value, as well as the transactions. So yeah, this is also the address gallery, the visual verification patterns. As you can see, you get to see the patterns instead of the whole text, overwhelming text. Yeah, and so what is the road ahead for KeyCanvas? So KeyCanvas aims towards the integration with real wallets implementing actual address generation and transaction signing, customization options, allowing users to personalize their KeyCanvas visuals within secure parameters, cross-platform compatibility to develop a native mobile application or applications, as well as advanced verification, explore cryptographic linking of visuals to addresses. So, hope you enjoyed. Thank you.